Hello everyone, in this video I am going to show you how to work with this simple networking architecture in VCP 6.7 that applies to 6.5 and vSphere 7 as well. So in this video what we are going to do, we are going to create a new ESXi host. So this is one ESXi host. In this we are going to create this architecture, and the objective of this video is that to actually make you an expert that how to apply any architecture that is given to you, even either in the real environment or in a test environment. So if we carefully look at this environment here, this is one ESXi host. So one ESXi host. In this there are three switches required. So we are going to create three switches. There is already one switch that is known as vSwitch 0 in all ESXi hosts by default. We are going to create three more switches: switch number 1, switch number 2, switch number 3. And then with that, with switch number 1 we are going to attach one uplink. With switch number 3 we are going to attach another uplink, and switch number 2 will not have any uplinks. So which means that ESXi host automatically comes with one ESXi host, and we are going to add two more ESXi, each ESXi host comes with one network card. We are going to create two additional card. One card, the first card is the default card that is connected to vSwitch 0, but we are going to add two more network cards, and one card will be connected to switch 1 and second card will be connected to switch 3. And at the same time we are going to create 4 VMs in this ESXi host, from which from the first VM two network cards will be added. One network card is connected to switch 1, the second network card will be connected to switch 2. The second VM there is only one network card, third VM there is only one network card, and both these VMs are connected to vSwitch 0. And the last VM that is known as Firewall Server 2. This is Firewall Server 1, this is Firewall Server 2, and this VM will have two network cards, one card connected to switch 3 and the second card connected to switch 2. So now if you are able to understand this architecture, one ESXi host, three switches, four VMs, and there are two physical cards attached to this ESXi host, and then these six NICs, virtual NICs will be connected to according to the architecture. So let's get started. So first of all, I am going to go to my VMware lab. Here I'm going to create a new, I can use an existing ESXi host, but just to show you, if you're really new to ESXi, I mean this environment, I mean working with vSphere VMware, so I am going to show you right from the beginning. You do need an ISO for VMvisor. So this is the version of ESXi host, and I am going to name this according to my architecture 360 cloud ESXi 03. So here I have 01, 02. I'm going to create 03 and next, and I'm gonna go with the default disk. Nothing needs to be added here right from the beginning. Since we know our architecture, I am going to customize this VM with adding two more network cards. So this is one network card. Remember that from the architecture that I need to add two additional network cards for that, and so I'm gonna add two more network cards. So click add on the, here. You can add the network card later on as well, but you need to remember whenever you add any hardware to ESXi host, you will have to reboot the ESXi host. So in order to just save me from rebooting again, I am going to connect, I'm going to use add two NIC cards right from the beginning. So and once this is done, I'll just create the VM, and in order to I'll power on this VM and go with the normal installation. So I'm gonna pause the video here. The installation is really simple. You just need to follow the prompt. Once the files are extracted, it will ask you for the language, for a few other questions. I'm gonna pause the video for now. Okay, so I'm gonna click enter, and then here F11. I'm just following the prompt. So I'm just following the prompt here. In order to complete the ESXi installation, here I need to press enter again and enter, and here I am going to use a password. So you do need to remember this password, and if it's this if this is the first time you're creating ESXi host, I would say to write this password somewhere. Write down this password, because if you lose this password, this is basically the root password for this ESXi host, and if you lose this password, it will be very difficult for you to uh, 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 restore this password. So here it's just giving me a warning for the CPU, but that's fine. I'm just going to click enter, and for installation I'm going to click F11. So F11, and the installation will continue, and so I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to press enter for the reboot, and once the reboot is done, I'm going to just wait for this to come back. Then I'm going to set up the IP address, so the IP address that connects to my Windows server. So I do have a Windows server here to which I connect to, so I'm going to log in. So in order to connect to your to ESXi host, you do need a Windows machine. Windows 10 will do as well. So in my case, I'm gonna connect through my Windows server. So if you're following this series, you can start with the video 1, in which I created the infrastructure, started with the Windows servers, and then created the ESXi host. You can so if this is the first time you're creating this VMware vSphere environment, you can start with video 1. So I am here to see what is my IP address, so that I can provide one IP address to ESXi host 3. So in this case, my IP address is probably, in the meantime the server is coming back. Once the server comes back, I am going to configure the IP address. So it asks for the update. The IP address on this server is 192.168.10.52, so I'm gonna just use the first 3 octet as exactly the same, and then for this ESXi 3 I'm gonna use another IP address. So probably I'm gonna set up 192.168.10.195, as I know that 195 IP address is not in use. Here I do have one ESXi 1 with 192.168.10.50. So for this one, I'm just gonna use one of the IP addresses. Okay, so the server is started, so all I need to do is basically click inside and then click F2 and then log in. So once I log in, I need to set up the IP address that I set. So there is some random IP address provided by DHCP of VMware Workstation. So I'm going to go to vSphere here, provide an IP address to this one. And in this case, this is 10.195 as we decided. Subnet remains the same, whereas the gateway will be from the same subnet. So the gateway is done and everything is done, and I'm going to press OK. I'm going to disable IPv6 IP address, and with the DNS I can provide a name. So later on I am going to use a DNS server. So for this, my DNS server is 10.10, which is your Active Directory server. Here you can also provide the right name for this ESXi host, 360 Cloud ESXi 03, and press enter. And here, once everything is done, I can press escape key, and then once escape key is done, it says that it will restart the networking services. So I let it restart, and make sure once everything is restarted, it goes back to the same screen. I need to see that if the IP addresses are configured properly. So server is rebooted. I can see the IP address 192.168.10.195. All I need to do is to connect to this server from my from this Windows machine. They're both on the same network. Make sure they're on the same network. They're on the same subnet. So we made sure it's on the same subnet. Both are 192.168.10. So on the subnet, and so all I need to do is to connect to this ESXi host by IP address. So I'm just going to say 192. So HTTPS 192, 168 and 195. So this is the IP address that we are going to connect to. So you are going to see this screen, warning screen here. We are going to accept the risk and connect. So it will connect us to the UI. So if both are on the same network, same IP address, same subnet actually, then you'll be able to connect. So here you are going to log in with the root account and the password. So you need to remember these are Linux machines. ESXi host is based on Linux technology, so that's why the main admin account is always the root account. So once it is connected, now it's time to basically configure this architecture. So once it properly connects, we'll go back here and see. So first of all, I need to create 3 switches. I can create these VMs later on, or what we can do is, yeah, we need to create 3 switches. Switch number 1, switch number 2, switch, I'm going to call them v switch 1, v switch 2, v switch 3. So for that, let's do it one by one, and I would recommend all of you to basically do step by step this exactly that how I am doing it, and also try to complete one task at a time. So for example, you are going to create switch number 1. Just keep on coming back to this diagram and making sure that you're doing exactly as the architecture diagram is showing. So in this case, I'm going to go back to my server. So this is my Windows server, and here it's giving me some error message, and in this case I just click cancelled on this error message. I am though connected to this ESXi host, and first of all, here there are no VMs in this ESXi host, so no VMs. Later on we are going to create 4 VMs. So first of all, going to networking. So within networking and switches, so we do have one switch available. So I'm not working on vSwitch 0. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to create 3 more switches. So here I'm just gonna create switch number 1. So I'm just gonna call this vSwitch 1. And I'm going to copy the name here. I do have one uplink, so one uplink, one network card will be connected to this, and rest I don't need to do anything else. So one switch is created, and in the same manner I need to create 2 more switches. So second switch, which is vSwitch 2, and one network card needs to be connected, but here we don't need a network card. So remember, going back to the architecture, this second switch doesn't have a network card connected. So for that reason, I am going to remove this network card from here. So no card will be connected to this switch. And now I am going to create the third switch. So third switch and third switch has one network card. So here I'm going to name this vSwitch 3. So we created 3 switches now. Based on our architecture, now we have 3 switches, and the switch 1 has one network card, and switch 2 has no network card, switch 3 has one network card. So if I go to vSwitch 1, I can see that it should show us one uplink connected. Uplink meaning one network card connected, and no port groups are here. Going back to networking, and if you look at vSwitch 2, there is no network card connected to this. So there is no physical network card connected. If we look at vSwitch 3, that should resemble our architecture, and here you can see that there is one uplink connected to this. Now the second thing what we need to do before we start creating VMs, so now based on this architecture, what is completed, we created 3 switches and 2 network cards. So this part is done. Now we are going to create VM. Now before creating the VMs, I need a VM network port group in each of the switches. In order to connect VM, we know that there are 2 types of port groups: VM network port group, management port group. So in VMs must connect to VM network port group. So I'm going to create 3 port groups for these switches. So each one is, so VM network 1, VM network 2, VM network 3. So in each switch I'm going to create these port groups. So now going back to our architecture, going back to our lab, here I'm gonna go back to networking, and within networking I'm gonna go to the port groups, and within the port group I'm gonna create the port groups. So the first port group, I'm gonna name this VM network 1. So this is vSwitch 0, sorry, vSwitch 1. This port group will be for vSwitch 1, and nothing needs to be changed in terms of other stuff. So if one port group is created, I'm going to create a second port group called VM network 2 for vSwitch 2, and remember to connect VM network 2 to vSwitch 2, and likewise I am going to create a third port group for the third switch. So why are we doing this? We are doing this because we need to create VM and attach VM to these V switches, and in the V switch we need to create a port group for the VMs. So this will be connected. So now there are 3 port groups available in 3 switches. So now what we can do is we can go to the VMs and create 4 VMs. So what are the VMs that we need to create? We need to create VM here. We need to create a VM for Firewall VM1, for web server VM1, application server 1, web server 1, application server 1, firewall VM2, and the network card that are in these VMs are these. So going back to our architecture, and we'll just take few more minutes here. So I'm going to create a new VM, and this will be a dummy VM. We don't need to install iOS ISO on this, so I'm going to just call this is Firewall Server 1. This is Firewall Server 1. It will be a Windows machine, and so the guest OS will be, let's say, we are just gonna select it. We are not gonna install here. So this is Firewall Server 1, and it will be there is a data store here. The important thing here is that it should have 2 network cards. So when we customize this settings here within this, so there is one network card which is right here. So this is, if I go down here, where's the network card? There is only one network card. So this network card should be connected to VM network 1. So this is VM network 1, which is on switch 1. So you can see that if you properly name them properly, then you'll be able to connect them properly as well. So here this will be VM network 1, and I am going to need another network card because this first VM has 2 network cards. One network card connected to vSwitch 1, second network card connected to vSwitch 2. So in here I am going to go back and add another network card. So here, add another network adapter. Once you click here, you just need to go down, and you will see that another network card is added, and this network card is connected to VM network 2. So this is how you need to make sure that 2 network cards on VM1 are connected to switch 1 and switch 2. And here I am getting a warning that the disk is not enough. So for that, I need to do one thing here, that I need to select thin provisioning for this. So for that, I'm gonna go back to disk here, and in the disk and the data store, okay, that's fine, and I'm gonna go to next, and within this, actually we're not starting up the VMs, so for that reason, let me see if I can create them. So I'm not able to create this unless I fix this issue. What I am looking for is thin provisioning for this disk. So I'm just gonna expand this, the minimum size, and here if you select thin provisioning, then this will go away. So just select thin provisioning here and click next and finish. So in this manner we have one VM created, and in the same manner I'm going to create the other VMs as well. So the second VM is called web server 1. So this will be web server 1. Again, you need to select Windows, and here you can select any. I'm not gonna install anything. So in this case, we have only one network card. So I'm just gonna make sure that there is one network card and connected to vSwitch 2. So based on our diagram here, remember that the second VM is connected to vSwitch 2 right here. So this VM is has a network card that is connected to vSwitch 2, which means that it is connected to VM port group 2. So here, same thing. I'm just gonna change to thin provisioning. Also going down to the network, I need to make sure that it is connected to VM network 2. And next, and finish. So okay, so that is not selected properly. Oh yes, I need to click thin provisioning and next and finish. So there are a few things, yes, you would just need to keep an eye on what you are doing. I would say that if you're doing that for the first time, then do it few times. Follow the lab. This is why I'm creating this video, so that this lab becomes easier for the people who are doing it for the first time. So I'm going to select a server and next, and here same thing. Within the disk, we need to change thick provisioning to thin provisioning. And so right here we need to say this is thin provision disk, and the network card is connected to this network card is still connected to this is the second VM connected to vSwitch 2, and next and finish. So this is done, and now we need to create the last server, and the last server is Firewall Server 2. So I'm just gonna name this FW server 2, and in this case it is connected to Windows, and it is Windows machine, and the operating system will be server 2012 or 2016. The disk is the default disk, and again we are going to select thin provisioning for this. So thin provisioned, and the network, this one is connected to vSwitch 3. So it's connected and finished. So this completes our architecture. Now if I go back to vSwitch 1, there are two VMs connected. So there is only one VM connected to vSwitch 1. So going to networking and going to the switch. So this is vSwitch 1. And vSwitch 1, if we look at the architecture, here I have one network card and one VM connected to this. If I look at the second switch, there are two VMs. I think so 3 VMs are connected to this. Oh yes, what we needed to do that we have vSwitch 3, vSwitch. So this is vSwitch 2. Let me see, all 4 VMs are connected probably. So going back to our architecture, all 4 VMs. So on the 4th VM, I forgot to add one more network card that connects to vSwitch 2. Let's do that right now. And so going back to VMs, going to the server, and from the server, we need to edit settings and add a new network card and make sure it is connected to vSwitch 2. So now once we do this, then our architecture will resemble the architecture that was required in the lab. So here we have only one network card. I'm going to add another network card and make sure that it is connected to vSwitch 2. vSwitch 2 is the one where all of the VMs are connected. vSwitch 1, there is only one VM, Firewall 1, and vSwitch 3, there is only one VM Firewall. So I'm going to go back to vSwitch 2. Here now I can see that there are 4 VMs. All the 4 VMs are connected, and there is no network card. So this is exactly resembles our architecture. I hope you understand this lab. And so basically your question might be, what is this lab in the real life? In the real life, this is basically simulating a DMZ environment. DMZ environment is protected between 2 firewalls. This is firewall 1, this is firewall 2, and inside these are servers that are protected from these firewalls on 2 sides. So So this is the architecture. I hope that this is clear. I would suggest that doing this lab a few times in order to understand the networking, how networking is configured in vSphere environment. Thank you for watching this video.